Time is 7:03. We're a little bit late. I apologize for starting the meeting a few minutes late. It is July 1st. The Royals are in contention for the World Series championship. Fortunately, our soccer team is not, but they gave it their best, and World Cup was a fun event to watch. You are tuning into the regular session number 30 of the Raytown Board of Aldermen. I'm going to start at this time with my good friend and the pastor of my church, Don Weeks, to deliver the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please.
Let us pause. God, our God, you're the one who causes us to realize that we do not make ourselves. You're the one who puts the sun in the sky, who causes the gentle breezes and soft rains to come and refresh our earth. We are grateful. We, as your people, want to care for this creation and our neighbors we share it with. So we come to you acknowledging that the wisdom we have on our own is not enough. We turn our eyes to you. We pray for this great country and for the birthday that it has in store. We ask that you would give all of its leaders and defenders your divine protection. We thank you for your leadership that causes them to think with greater thoughts than their own. We pray that you would be honored in our national government. We thank you for these who come together today to do the work of this particular community in our free land. We are grateful for volunteers who give of themselves to make decisions on behalf of all for the good of all. And we pray you would bless them in their dedication and service. We thank you for the citizens living in this town, for the shopkeepers and the police officers, the teachers, the moms and dads, the volunteers for Meals on Wheels, the neighbors who get one another's paper while they're out of town. You make us a community, and for that we are grateful. Make us a better community, one that looks beyond our own good and sees what's happening in our backyard so that we can care for one another more intentionally and completely. We especially lift up the children of our community as they're out of school now and in a time when they may be less supervised, may be in need of nutrition and extra care. Help us as a community to rise to that occasion, to be people who are a village shaping our children. For these things we petition you tonight, O Lord, and thank you that you are good and faithful to hear our prayer, which we pray in the name of the one who sets us free. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don, would you stay there for just a minute, please?
I'd be honored.
Yes, we're going to take something out of order at this time. Every year, the Missouri Municipal League asks the city of Raytown and other cities in our metropolitan area, and the Western chapter, in fact, ask us to nominate our civic leader of the year. And still as a surprise, I hope, to Dawn, is that she is this year's nomination of civic leader of the year for the city of Raytown.
Oh my goodness.
The reason that that nomination was made, I gave it a lot of thought, and I know I have the support of the council on the Board of Aldermen as well, but I believe that so much of what is good about Raytown is the foundation lies in our faith community. I know that Dr. Dawn Darwin Weeks came to the city with now Dr. Joe Weeks, her husband, and their very young family years ago to make a difference in our community. There was a recognized need in our community to celebrate our diversity that was growing in our community. Don and Joe felt the need, felt the drive, and came to Raytown to make a difference. You look at a number of things that we are doing very well at in our community, and that's celebrating our diversity, celebrating our youth, and growing our youth. Don, you would find at the foundation of our egg extravaganza, having gotten that started, and that has been passed on, and many other people are involved with that, and it continues to grow. She was at the foundation of starting also the summer youth lunch program, which has grown, and they feed they feed over 1,000 kids a summer, easily with that. And again, that has gained the support of many other congregations. A lot of people in this community get together. The city works on it as well, but a lot of people in this community get out and are a part of that program, and Don was at the foundation of that. Everywhere I started to look, I kept seeing this young lady at the base of what was happening in our community. So Don, it's a pleasure today, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, to invite you to the dinner on July 17th, where we will recognize you, the Missouri Municipal League will recognize you for your work and for you being the 2014 Civic Leader of the Year. That doesn't mean you have to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I know you do. Okay, and with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Alderman Azier.
Here.
Alderman Mock.
Here.
Alderman Jason Green.
Here.
Alderman Ertz.
Here.
Alderman Emerson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Here.
Alderman Lightfoot.
Here.
Alderman Josh Green.
Here.
Alderman Van Buskert.
Here.
Alderman Melson.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. This time I'm going to call the public forward that have filled out the form at the door that wish to speak to this council on items other than the public hearings that we have, items 4 and items 6. Since they are public hearings, if you want to speak on those items, I would ask that you wait until that item comes forward on the agenda. Any other matter that this board is in control of is fair game at this time if you'd like to come forward. Okay, none appearing. I have delivered my good news as the form of announcing Don Weeks as the Missouri Municipal League nominee for Civic Leader of the Year. And with that, Mahesh, if you'd like to continue communications from the City Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor Bauer, Board of Aldermen. The administrative report was provided last Friday. I really have nothing to add to that report, and I just wish everybody safe and happy 4th of July.
Very good. Let me write to committee reports, and I'll start on my left this time with Mr. Mock.
Yeah, Council on the Aging will be meeting on Thursday, July 17th at 4:15 in the Chamber Conference Room. Plus, we have something sponsored by Raytown Council on Aging and ARP. It's called Staying Sharp, Lunch and Learn. You can bring your lunch. Thursday, July 10th, 2014, here at Raytown City Hall from 11:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. So if I'll go on and read about it. Are you worried about keeping your mind sharp, concerned about an older relative's memory? Bring your sack lunch to City Hall, Raytown, Missouri, and learn how you can stay sharp, ways to help someone you love and sharpen their memory. So if you can attend, it's here at City Hall on July 10th.
Mr. Lightfoot, legislative.
There's no legislative report today.
Okay. Mr. Ertz?
Nothing today.
Please, Ms. Emerson.
Okay. There's no report on human relations, but I just wanted to
say that there has been some confusion as to where the farmer's market is, and it is on Raytown Road across from the green space. Some people had thought it was on Raytown Traffic Way. And it's on Thursdays from 2 to 7 and Saturdays from 8 to 1. Thank
Good.
you.
Ms. Melson?
I do have something to report, and actually it is the first annual senior celebration that is sponsored by the Raytown Chamber of Commerce. It will be Saturday, September 13th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Point on Blue Ridge Cutoff. It is for those senior citizens that are 55 and older, and we're inviting those individuals to put on their Sunday best, dancing shoes, and come enjoy great music, dancing, refreshments, door prizes, photo booth, and meet neighbors. There will be tickets starting on sale at $10 a piece in August. At the next meeting, I'll bring more information on that. Raytown Chamber of Commerce is looking for individuals, groups, sponsorships, or businesses for sponsorships. And all you have to do is call 353-8500 and talk to those individuals at the chamber, and they'll be glad to give you that information. But it's going to be a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's an exciting time. I do hope that we have the seniors turning out for that. Any other committee reports? Okay, very good. We'll move to the legislative session. We have just the one item on the consent agenda, that being the June 17th Board of Aldermen meeting minutes.
We had 3.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made, seconded to approve the minutes, June 17th, under the consent agenda. Any discussion? Call the vote on that, please.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Melson,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Ask clerk to perform the reading on item number 2 as amended.
a resolution authorizing and approving the expenditure of funds to the Wilson Group, Inc. related to City Hall boardroom renovations in an amount not to exceed $81,750.
Mr. Knoll, I know this is an interesting topic to this entire board. Please give us the update.
Yes, thank you very much. We've been working the last several meetings trying to come to a conclusion on what we would like to do with the boardroom. Took some of the concerns. We first started with removal of the storage room and then an audio-video room that was at the back of the Board of Aldermen room. That reduced the cost by about $17,000 by removing those items, because it removed a lot of lighting that had to be done, some HVAC work, quite a few walls, and some electrical work in those rooms. We came up with an alternative. The audio-video room will be able to be placed in what we currently use as the mail room. We made some changes to the operations in the sanitary sewer billing procedures. Used to mail those out ourselves here at City Hall. Now we do not perform those. We contract those out at a significant savings. So now that our mail inserter folder is a rather large item that we don't need anymore, that will be going away. So that'll provide us an opportunity to place the audio-video equipment in that room. This will not provide any storage in any locations. It does continue to address some safety issues that we feel like are that could cause us some problems in the future. We will continue to install a permanent ramp up to the dais. It will remove the stairs from the conference room by moving the door from the back of the Board of Aldermen to the front. The dais will shorten some to give a little bit more space. It will also include new lighting about halfway on the dais above in the ceiling. The ceiling will be covered with drywall and painted a more neutral color to help with the quality of the video production for the board meetings. And it will paint a new drywall in all of the room as well. We'll have refinishing on the dais to update the look of the dais, and then also to provide a means so that you can hit a button so that the mayor will know when someone wishes to discuss an item. So currently that brings the price with a small contingency of around 5% to the $81,750 for the entire item. We also included 3 ad alternates. I heard some discussions that the floor looks bad, the ceiling is kind of needs updated as well because it's stained from age. Those items are included in there with the ceiling replacement is $15,000. To replace all of the carpet is an additional almost $16,000. Although there is in the base amount, an amount to redo the carpet within the existing area where it is carpeted. And then also a lighting update will replace all of the existing fixtures in the grid ceiling with a high-efficiency T5 fixtures as well. So we'll update those lighting. So those were some of the other items that we've had separated out in case there's more items wanted to be done or less items wanted to be done. So here to answer any other questions.
Questions, Mr. Knoll? Mr. Ertz?
Yeah, I believe we tasked you with coming back to us with a reduced plan, and I'm glad you did. I particularly like the idea that I believe with this project, we won't have the trip of the step here. We won't have the trip of the cords going to the cameras anymore. Would the cameras be up above, or would they be?
The camera system, the system itself is an additional amount to this.
Yeah, but you're going to wire for that?
Correct.
In this?
Correct. Depending on, initially we had thought we would put that wiring and those mounting on those storage rooms. Now we'll mount them on probably one of those columns.
So they'd be fixed and ran.
Correct. And they're
from a control.
pan, tilt, and zoom, so they have multiple set locations where you'll be able to do that. So.
And this company that is telling us that we need this color and neutrals is a company that's done this work before, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we were working with an architect, and they had a lighting engineer as well, and they brought in, when we first went about this process where we were going to redo the entire room and quickly found out we cannot afford all of those renovations. It was during that process that he said, to make a better production, you need better lighting, and you also need more neutral colors around the dais.
And then as far as the sound goes, because I hear a lot of complaints, not only that they can't see us, but also that they can't hear us a lot of times, would they be able to control the microphones also, or to make sure?
Yes. As part of this project, we'll relocate the microphone system and public announcement system to that same mailroom, so that the person who's controlling the cameras can adjust those microphones.
They can turn it
needed.
up if somebody's leaning back too far away.
Correct.
And
Correct.
then all that you do is see the mouths move, and you don't know
Correct.
what's going on.
Yeah, they'll be able to adjust to there is a limit to how far that will be effective. If they stand too far away, simply will not pick up.
Perhaps they could let somebody know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
some of those items, so they'll be able to adjust those items, and then sometimes you turn that up too high, you'll start to get feedback. So they'll be able to adjust those items so we can limit that.
And other than the murals, the entire room would be painted.
Correct.
The dais would be changed out to a.
It's going to remain pretty much the current shape. There will be some
It'll
more
be shorter
trim
on the-
added, and yes.
Shorter on the end, so we would be able to allow more people to be in
Correct.
here, especially for court. and
Correct.
Things like that. I believe your table, is that move closer?
This table, yes,
or
the table
change?
will probably come closer, and it also gets smaller,
Smaller?
because currently this is repurposed
It
piece of
looks
equipment, so
yeah.
it's not exactly for this intent, so that we can better fit, maximize the seating that's available for the court sessions, because they get very crowded.
And then the room, which I believe court uses mostly, but we also use for council on the aging, we also use for sales tax oversight, and all the other meetings over there will get larger because it will lose the steps,
Correct. It'll become much more usable. That is correct.
usable space.
Yes.
And the space where the electronics that's behind here will be over there, and then also some of the electronics that's in the IT department will also free up some room in there.
Correct. The current IT room also houses not only the servers that provide the computers and the processing power for the all of the upper level City Hall, It also has the video equipment and the feeds for.
And that room is in
cable.
dire need of help. And
Right, it would be nice to move that to a separate location so that we can minimize the number of people that have access to the servers.
Okay, so we're getting lighting, we're getting paint, we're getting certain upgrades to things that that the professional people said you would need if you want to do a quality video.
Correct.
I believe it's still this board's intention that we would broadcast our meetings.
Correct.
Albeit that, I know you have to have Comcast to have them live, but I believe we do show them several times through the week, and perhaps I believe somebody's picking them up on something else, but.
Correct. Yeah, it'd still
but
be
we
a
need to
li-
film them to get that going, so.
Yeah, it'll still be a live production, and then it will be re-aired several times throughout the week.
So we will be set up to continue we won't miss any meetings.
Correct.
Won't need to do this they will be coming in and out of here. They will be paying prevailing wages for all these jobs because we are a government entity. And, I can see it sounds pretty to me, I'm in favor of it. It's been a long time in coming. Personally, I think if one person trips on one of these steps or cords, we could be sued for more than this project costs. I know it's a tremendous amount of money, but in 45 or 50 years, I think it's time that maybe we'd look at this. So I'll be interested in hearing what everybody has to say, but I appreciate your time and effort on it, and I hope we can give you some clear direction tonight. So.
Motion.
And I'll make a motion. Yes. I'll go with a motion to
I'll
approve.
second.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion made by Mr. Ertz, seconded by Mr. Kramer. We're into discussion, and I believe, Mr. Kramer, you are up next.
I am. Appreciate the floor, and I appreciate what you've done, Mr. Knoll, and going back and reevaluating what we're going to do to this room and how we're going to utilize it, which is part of the process that we go through. We're to work with you and you're to work with us, and you brought back what I believe is a perfectly acceptable setup. The room does need updates. I've had a number of complaints about not only video but audio from constituents, and these are the people that are paying to fund this, but we also want them to be able to hear what we're saying and understand what we're saying clearly. So I just think it's a very important step forward. This is the people's hall, and we're to be good stewards of it, and we have an opportunity to upgrade it and make it a better setup for not only those that come into this room, but those that are not able to come into this room but watch us from home. I do have a question. Because we air on Comcast, with the audio-visual room, is it going to be pre-wired where if we have somebody else come in, another carrier, is that going to be something that we're going to be able to support?
We'll continue to utilize the same individuals who currently run the camera.
Sure.
Currently, they'll be able to operate the new equipment as well. Should be quite simple to do.
Well, but should we have somebody other than Comcast come in, say it's DirecTV or somebody like that, is the room going to be compatible for additional airings and additional equipment if needed?
I think
I would guesstimate that, yes, it's going to be big enough, because I think that if any additional equipment would fit in a normal rack mount setting. So
Okay.
it just depends on the quantity of equipment that would be necessary to how much would fit.
Our equipment gives a signal to the Comcast, whoever it is, becomes another agency, our signal would still give that to the other
Sure.
entities. So.
Well, and I just can't stress the importance of it, that if we're able to better communicate to people through better audio-visual capabilities, I think that's part of the stewardship role that we have as aldermen, to make it a more clear, concise programming. So from my second, I think everybody knows I'm in support of this.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Knoll, first of all, I do want to commend you for coming back with a reduced proposal. I know that's what the majority of this board, their thoughts were on that. That being said, I just have to make it known to the rest of the board that this figure is still too high for me to fully embrace this. And I do appreciate the work that you've done on this, and I've told you this multiple times. This is just, the price tag's too much. When I look at these plans, you know, I understand the need for an ADA ramp. You know, let's be in federal compliance there. And honestly, I understand the need for the carpet. But, you know, one of the biggest issues that I've always deemed as needed in this room, being the chairs for the public, isn't even this figure. And I understand that you said that would cost somewhere around like 12. Is that right?
Yes, it's around $11,200.
Yeah. But the other things, though, I don't see as absolutely 100% necessary at this moment in time. And I understand this is the People's Hall, this is the People's Building. That being said, one of the key reasons that I ran was because I think that I have to be a good steward of people's money. And I cannot, in good conscience, support this effort this time.
Mr. Asher.
Mr. Knoll, thank you for being responsive to the concerns of the board. The plan that you came up with shows that, you know, you are obviously a really good listener because it's a much better plan. I like it. I just have a couple questions to ask you. Did you consult, and I'm not being testy here, but did you consult an AV company when you came up with your plan for the installation of the camera and lighting?
Yes, we did. When we first started this project, we were utilizing an architect and electrical engineers who brought in the audio-video sub-consultants to them, and we were going to produce a set of plans that we were going to bid. At that point, we realized this is going to come in, $170 to maybe close to $200,000 that we simply did not have the budget for. And then it was like, what can we do to do pieces of this project and keep it at a reasonable level? When we went through that, they brought in an audio person. We went through and discussed the acoustics of this room are not the best with the hard surfaces. There are certain things where it's just going to echo. They said carpet could help with that quite a bit, but they said that is what you'll have to it's about the only change you can make is with carpet might help the audio with less echoing. Then we also discussed the lighting. He said you really want to make sure, or actually the video production. We discussed whether you need pan, tilt, and zoom lenses or a fixed camera, and he really said pan, tilt, and zoom is probably your best option so that you can adjust your locations. You can get better viewing areas with the pan, tilt, and zoom cameras, and that also that it's the ceiling with it being so dark causes a lot of problems with the quality of the video with the lighting, and he says the current lighting provides quite a few shadows. So yes, we did talk extensively about that and took into consideration their what they thought was necessary to improve the quality.
And I, you know, having a little bit of experience in education and cameras, I do know that this is not, it's a pretty sticky, it's a very challenging to do a good job and get a good PA system. Can you point out exactly where that camera is going to go? I'm just curious.
We originally thought it was going to go on those walls of the audio-video room and the storage room. But with those excluded, it'll probably be either on the pillar on the back side of the door or the pillar forward of that. It'll be mounted on those pillars is where it will be.
And that'll be the camera that'll photograph the meeting?
Correct. There will be 2 of those cameras.
And there'll be 2 cameras?
Yeah, at least 2.
Now, this camera is handheld and it changes positions.
Correct.
Will that be true with the new one?
No. They will have multiple fixed points where you can go to a set zoom area, so you'll quickly change between different views. So as long as you pick a view from a different camera, you can immediately change to that view and then back to another one.
Okay.
So you don't get that panning motion as you move across from one view to another view.
Like sports?
Correct. Yeah, you'll immediately change.
With them on the, so you get one on the wall And where's the other
You'll
one?
have one over there and one over here.
Oh, one
so-
over there? So will there ever be a straight shot, like at the mayor? I'm just curious.
No, I don't think so.
We hope
Everything
not.
will be somewhat at
We
an
hope
angle.
not.
I mean, it's always going to be at an angle?
Correct. Unless there's a way to mount a third one, but then I think our cost will be too high at that point.
Yeah. And the lighting, now, they're going to be higher than it is floor level, right? It's going to be up?
Yes, yes.
So are you sure the lighting isn't going to affect the actual camera too? I mean, it's going to be a lot closer to the lights, and do they take into account the kind of bulbs we have? Or are we just putting the lighting in because it's more efficient, or it's going to be brighter? I mean,
No,
how does that all work together?
No, we're putting in a lighting that doesn't have, where you won't pick up the direct light from the bulb itself, where it'll illuminate the area, but the camera will not see the bulb itself. So, and then it will do a better job of illuminating the faces of the board members without over-illuminating the background and washing it out, so.
So the sound then, is that being recorded on the camera?
No, separately. It'll still be recorded by the microphones that
Oh,
we
okay.
currently use.
I do appreciate that because I have a little understanding. And are there similar systems that are working that you've seen that, I mean, have you actually seen this kind of a setup and viewed how it works?
It's used quite often in churches. This is where it's used a lot. So there's different levels of them, but I have not went and looked at one specifically set up like that.
I guess I mean, I'm sure that you put time into it. I guess I might suggest you look at one of those. It's a complicated thing, and if you get a bad system, you're stuck with it. That's my biggest concern. And I have seen that in a number of churches too, and even in education, in the different kinds of rooms they use for AV equipment. So when I know that when we're trying to go the cheapest route, we may end up with something that's not as good as what we have now. And that would be my concern.
Right, that's one of the things.
Especially when you're going from one camera to two cameras.
Right, and that's what I looked at the camera system. It needed to make sure it was pretty much point and click. It needed to be very simple for the operator, where they just press on the view that they want to have displayed. They have multiple views to choose from on a touch screen panel, and then they will simply be able to push on the one that they want to feed out as the production part of it. So it should be fairly simple for the user.
Okay, and I guess my last question would be, is there any kind of a guarantee from the company that's selling this program that if it's just not a good quality, that we're not stuck with it?
No. No, you're buying equipment is what we would be buying.
Okay,
So you'll be a guarantee of it will work as it is intended, that the pieces will work, but that's all they will guarantee.
Okay, I say that because if indeed, like other aldermen have said, if we have some complaints from viewers and they want to watch it on television, they want to get good clarity, and we don't provide that, we haven't gained anything, we've just spent money. So thank you very much.
I'm going to go to this side over here. I'm going to go to Mr. Lightfoot, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of questions. First off, this $82,000 doesn't include the cameras, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So, and what additional cost would the cameras be?
$10,000 to $15,000.
Okay. So we're up to around $100,000, actually.
Correct.
And then, do you have an estimation of what percentage of Raytown residents have Comcast?
No, I don't.
Between DirecTV, all the different providers, now we even have Google Fiber. I feel like less and less people probably even have Comcast. I wish we knew what the percentage of people that actually had Comcast. The only provider that shows this on television, and obviously out of that percentage of people, it's probably a small percentage that actually watch it. I love that it's televised, and I wish everyone could see it. I can't see it. I don't have Comcast available in my neighborhood, as a lot of people probably don't. Just curious. I thought that'd be interesting, like I said, especially with the Google Fiber, 2 different satellite providers, Time Warner. it would seem to me that the percentage of people it's available to would be fairly small. I kind of feel like on the same level as Alderman Josh Green, that it's just $100,000 seems like a huge taxpayer's expense, particularly when they all won't be able to even take advantage of. It seems like everybody's talking about the televised thing as the main factor in this. So, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Be sure to take your cup down that signifies that you want to talk, which this system would replace also. Ms. Emerson?
I appreciate your hard work in bringing this forward. I have the same concern I did last time about the ceiling over the dais. This is wood. I have visited 2 multi-million-dollar homes, and in their offices and their dens, they have wood ceilings. I hate to see gypsum put on top of it. I would be willing to come up here and put some oil on it, bring my stepladder and do that. But I think that it is just not a good thing to replace a beautiful ceiling that's made of wood. And that's all I have to say.
Go ahead.
Ms. Melson?
I am very glad to see this proposal. I was the first time it was brought forward because I think that the safety issues in this room will be addressed, considerably so by taking out that lovely little step there, as well as putting an ADA ramp, which allows anybody to run for the Board of Aldermen to win and actually to get up here on the dais. There have been aldermen that have had very difficult times getting up here. We had a gentleman that had polio that was on hand crutches. Very difficult time to get up here. It's time to come to this century and get this room fixed and bring it up to what it needs to be. It's going to be a cost no matter what you do. You can leave it like this and you can trip off the stair and fall. You can break your leg and be in a hip-to-toe cast and not be able to make it up the 2 little stairs to your seat on the dais. It's not a good thing. And we want to be opening and welcoming, whether it's the Board of Aldermen, where it's the Planning and Zoning, anybody that meets in this room, on this dais, you know, in the other room where there's also a lovely little step that you fall off of. And I really think that the safety issues need to be addressed on this dais. Again, as Mayor Bauer pointed out, the whole cup thing that you have to put up there so he can know who wants to talk. We get a new microphone system, we can kind of come to the 21st century, let's not go backwards, and be able to have a system where the mayor knows who wants to do what. It is going to be a cost, whether it's painting, whether it's carpet, we're shortening the dais, but we're also improving this room. Not only for us that sit up here at times, but for everybody that comes. And that's also going to be reflected in the AV equipment that we're getting with the sound, with the visuals. It's just going to be different. This board has voted on many things over the years that didn't need that much money. This needs money. It needs something to bring attention to it. And when people, and there's not just us that come here. There's a lot of meetings that come up and are held in this room. It's so, again, the safety, I am for it. I was for it from the beginning. I applaud on the new things that you did kind of, change around and stuff. But it's time to do it, and the time is now.
Mr. Green, Mr. Jason Green.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to let you, Mr. Knoll, appreciate you coming back. I don't know if you mentioned this, but I'm happy that the plan was revised. There were some obviously concerns, like with the closet situation. Obviously, city staff found an alternative for that. I also appreciate, and I sympathize with Alderman Green and Alderman Lightfoot's comments, but tonight I'm going to be voting in favor of this. my understanding was this hasn't been done before since the entire history of the city's incorporation. And there is a lot of updating to be done. In fact, I would also, hopefully, the board maybe later on can also consider, maybe one of these add-ins, alternatives, maybe later on in terms of out there, maybe replacing the tile, things like that. Because to be honest with you, this place could look a lot better. It was kind of my same mentality with some of the renovations we did, out there in the lobby there and to the bathrooms and such. You got to have some pride in this. And I understand there's a steep cost, and that's why I do sympathize with some of the voices of dissent. I do want to make a quick comment, though, and maybe this could be a point of consideration later on for city staff. And this is somewhat on topic with this, so I will be very brief. In regards to the broadcast of these meetings, maybe a point of consideration later on would be to try to find other options so that more citizens of our community can be better informed in terms of watching the broadcast besides those that have contracts with Comcast Cable. And I'll leave my comments there, but thank you.
I'm going to chime in on that because I think in today's technology and with all the different cable providers, I too would like to see us. I believe when we've looked at this in the past, I think there was a cost of $5,000 to $6,000 to add carriers. It may be, what I'm hearing from this board is this board may be receptive to finding a way to fund those additional carriers. So I do hope we look forward, we look further into that as this goes forward. You've got the whole bucket up there, Mr. Kramer. You have a lot to say, or is it?
Not a whole lot. I just want to kind of chime in as the other people were talking, and let me get the picture down here, that I had to let my car know that I wanted to.
We beat that home already, I think.
As I was scrolling through the costs, a lot of the costs that are incurred in this, no matter what we do, is the fact that we're obligated by state law to pay prevailing wage. And on one hand, you can look at it as the benefit of that guy that's doing the work in there. But on the other hand, you've got to look at, because of legal obligations put forth by the legislature, we're required to pay prevailing wage or equal to union wage, whether they're union or non-union. And there's no way to get around that. And that level of pay is only going to elevate as time goes on. And I just realized I didn't have my mic on. But with the prevailing wage situation, that is driving a lot of the costs that we're incurring in this. It's not going to get any cheaper. And to look around and deny the fact that something needs or doesn't need to be done, I think is foolish on our part. It's a lot of money, but as I drove here and drove past our Public Works building that we recently renovated, that was a huge eyesore and an embarrassment to our city. It was a black eye on our city, and through Mr. Knoll's leadership, we were able to renovate that and make it a sparkling facility that people are proud of. And I want those same people, when they come into this council chamber, to be proud of what they've got as a community in their city hall. Lighting's $15,000, AV stuff to prepare for the AV room is $15,000, and it all adds up. But that labor cost is what's really driving this, and to deny the fact that we don't need better audiovisual capabilities, and I do understand there's going to be a greater cost beyond this, but it needs to be done. That's the only source of communication that some of these people have, is what they're able to watch on TV. And when they call me and say, hey, I didn't hear what you said, what is it you said? Well, there's a real problem with that. So, all that being said, I'm going to continue my support.
Before I go to Mr. Lightfoot, historically, my experience is that 60% of the costs are in the labor, for projects, especially when you start to look at renovation projects. We don't know what we're going to get into on this ceiling. We don't know if we take that, if we add the extra sheetrock, if we do that, what's going to happen. We don't know that. So the cost is typically even higher in renovations, and I believe that's been taken into consideration. So a lot of it is prevailing wage, but keep in mind 60 to 65% of the costs are in labor on this. So, Mr. Lightfoot. Oh. Mr. Van Buskirk. Mr. Van Buskirk yields to Mr. Mock.
Mr. Knoll, thank you for the time and effort you put into researching this. I appreciate that. And obviously, you put a lot of thought into it. And I appreciate the fact that you came back with some changes that reflected some of the things that we requested to be changed. As I look at it, I really think we absolutely need to do some renovations on this room. It's been a long time, and it is needed. But I think we need to use the money wisely that we spend. Carpet tile, I think that's needed. I would rather see most of those renovations be out in the area where the people sit and not up here. I'm not sure why we're shortening the dais on both ends. That's going to add a lot to the cost. I'm sure part of that has to do with the fact that we want to put a permanent ramp on this side. We couldn't do it on that side because we're talking about moving that door down here. Doing those renovations right there, removing that step in there, moving that door down here, eliminating that, putting this permanent ramp in, shortening this dais, and then covering this with sheetrock or whatever, some type of material, is a big part of this cost. And I think the money would be better spent putting carpet out here, buying new chairs for people to sit in, maybe changing the ceiling out here. By the way, are the lights, are all the lights going to be changed in the room, or just these? What's slated for change?
Just the ones on the wood ceiling.
Right. So most of the changes we're talking about is right here. I agree with Alderman
Somebody.
Pick one.
Emerson. Sorry, Janet. I like the wood here, and maybe it's not the best for, for TV, I don't know. But I don't really see a problem with that. I hate to see it covered. I think maybe a coat of, clear coat on it might make it look a whole lot better. I don't see a reason we need a permanent ramp put in here. It's very seldom that it's needed. We have a portable ramp. We've used it in the past, and we can use it again. We own one. And if we have someone who needs that, we can put it up here anytime, and it can be utilized. I do have a couple other questions for you. As far as now all of the camera equipment, that's in addition to what we're seeing here. The carpet is in addition to what we're seeing here.
Correct.
The lighting update is in addition to what we're seeing here in the cost. The ceiling replacement would be in addition to it. So the total cost is probably somewhere more in the neighborhood of $150,000 when we're looking at everything. And I feel like we're spending too much for renovation on this end of the room, and we need to, spread that out throughout the whole room. It needs to be painted, agreed. But I really don't feel all of this needs to be done. I would like to see this go to a committee of aldermen to take a look at and review all of this and look at possibly making some changes. Again, I think that we do need to make changes here. We need to renovate the room, but we need to use our money wisely. And You know, if it's just for, well, we was talking about, you know, the mayor being able better to see or know who's wanting to be recognized. I don't think putting a panel in for the mayor up here is part of that expense, is it? That's not mentioned here.
It is part of that, yes.
It is?
Yes, in the wiring.
Would that tell him who?
Yes, it'll have basically a dot representing each person, and if they hit a call button, it'll illuminate that dot.
We could probably do that anyway, though, couldn't we?
Yes, we probably could. separately.
Right. I think it probably is needed. So I just, you know, I think there are things that need to be done. The painting needs to be done. We do need carpet in here. The ceiling needs to be repaired. There may be some refinishing that needs to be done on the dais here. I'm not sure, you know, what all is really required to dress the room up, but I'm not sure that we need to spend, you know, $150,000 to do it. And we'd probably spend less than that and get everything accomplished that will make it a better place to come for our citizens. Thank you.
Let me help you out with your math. You said 150,000. I've added these up. If we included all of the ad alternates, I believe it's like 118,000, not 150,000, if that helps put it in a little better perspective.
Well, we're talking 81,750 with the additional amount onto the 77,850 plus 15,9683 plus 15,88833 plus 10,269.25. That's approximately 130,000. Then we're talking about camera equipment in addition to that, and chairs in addition to that, which is not part of that. So that takes it up more in the category of close to 150,000.
What we're acting on today is the proposed 81, taking it to maybe a total of 120, I believe, in the interest of fairness and accuracy.
Right.
Mr. Ager.
After listening to Alderman Emerson, I've been thinking a great deal about the ceiling, and I know it's not ideal. You don't normally see wood ceilings that are brown. But as I sit here and I look, I look at the TV set right behind Andy there, and it doesn't look not bright. It doesn't look bad. When you consider that we have a dark ceiling and you have blue walls, and I guess I just question, you know, the necessity of I mean, even the lighting isn't horrible. I know I've seen myself on television before, and I see the light reflecting off my white hair, and I kind of get washed out, you know, but it doesn't have a big deal to me. But the bottom line is, the question is the lighting bad enough to do all those things we're doing for lighting? Is it going to be that great a difference? What it would be like if you just painted the walls white, left the ceiling dark? I mean, most of the reflections up the lower part, not above the lights. I'm just throwing that out. I'm not telling you that I'm an expert in lighting, but most everything we have in this new plan is really good. I mean, we're questioning the lighting, I guess, and they're talking about carpeting. I think it would be foolish to do the changes to the floor and not. I mean, I don't know how you can not put carpeting in if you take a step out. That wouldn't look very good. I wouldn't think, but. Anyway, I'm throwing that out as a thought too. I'm like most of the other aldermen. I think this project really needs to go forward. We've got to make some changes. We're talking about the wooden ceiling, which is a way of saving money. And again, I'm not convinced that the lighting's bad. So that's my thought.
Mr. Mock.
Okay. The Mayor had mentioned the ceiling earlier about putting half-inch gypsum up on the ceiling. All right, to be honest, I don't know if it should not come completely off and then go back up with half-inch gypsum, but it's for someone else to figure out. But I personally like the character of this ceiling. I sat out there tonight to look back at this ceiling and looked at the character of the ceiling, and to look at the renovating of the diocese and this and that. I'd like to know what it looked like myself, but to take half-inch chips and put over the ceiling today, I just, you know, to me, it's a blah, you know, but the door itself going into the chamber conference room, is that door open by any chance?
Yeah. It's unlocked.
Is it unlocked? Okay. You remove the door down here, you've got a security door right now. I know we're not going to do anything else to that room, from what I understand. So to me, that's a security door right now, as it sits. Sure, I'd like to see all the rest of this room, yeah, taken care of too. It's very expensive today, but yeah, there is savings, like I've heard that mentioned, with the ceiling itself by leaving the door. I think it might be a good idea to look into a committee to look at it. I mean, we're sort of, from what I'm hearing from everyone else tonight, we're half and half, it looks like. So, but if we could possibly look into a committee to come back with this, and, you know, and sit down with you, Andy, and go over this a little bit more. And I know it's frustration and everything, but I'd like to know more about the dais itself. I know it's cut off 4 foot on each side. What else did? I mean, we've got it here, but we don't really know what it does look like, you know, what it's going to look like.
Correct. We have not went into that. There is a big placeholder for the dais renovations. It's to get rid of the laminate across the top. It's to try to refinish the existing actual wood finishes on there, where it's not a laminate, I forget, an overlay wood on the plywood. It's to add some more trim around the top dais, just to make it look a little more, I guess, not ornate, but just give it a more up-to-date look on it, but to redo that top section where you have the laminate that is mismatched to the wood color below. So that's where a lot of that expense is included, so.
I can, like this step out in front, yeah, I can.
Yeah, that step
taking
goes
it
away.
out. But that said, I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more of a savings myself, you know. It's just, like somebody had mentioned, it's from here back, except for the paint on the outer side out here, so. Other than that, that's it for right now.
I've heard a number of aldermen talk about the cost of this. I haven't heard any one of you, though, suggest a cost. What are you looking for to pay for this? I mean, I can tell you, if somebody trips and falls on that step, take a guess what you're going to be paying for this. If somebody walks in the door and wants to gain access to this platform, guess what you're going to be paying for this.
I did mention taking out that step, yes.
So what is the cost that you want to see on this?
What's the cost?
What do you want to pay for this?
I think, to be honest, on this whole
We always expect you to be
thing,
honest.
yeah, I will be. You might not like to hear what I have to say.
I'm ready for it, but I want to hear it. We talked about this for 3 weeks now. This, I think, is our 3rd meeting, so I want to get.
Yes, I understand.
I want to move on this.
I understand you want to do that also. But before tonight's meeting, I was straight in how I was concerned about a couple of things also. But, we've got more than we're looking at in the picture here. Down the road, I mean, we're leaving the tile, the ceiling tile, the grid, the floor tile. That's what, back in the 70s? That's what I'm just trying to look at, is maybe saving the cost there to help out here to help finish us off.
Okay, so if we're looking at.
Dave, I'm not going to, Mayor Bowers, I'm not going to come up with a figure for you.
Well, I keep hearing now that, and I've heard, and I'm going to ask Josh the same question, what are you willing to pay? What's the magic dollar that you want to pay to make these improvements happen? Because I haven't heard that.
Well, right now, I could probably say probably less than 50. How's that?
You want to spend less than $50,000? Okay.
Just on what, you take off the ceiling, a few other things. I mean, the lighting, yeah, there is room for improvement on the lighting. I mean, if you're looking at a diffuser up here, and I saw the cost of those, And I know what the cost is to go out and purchase these and have them installed. So, and I understand it's prevailing wage, but don't want to use the word shocking, but, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Ertz, before you take we've talked about this for close to an hour. I would be interested if you would entertain the idea of tabling this, and we'll form a committee, but I don't want to see this take a year. We've had a month and a half, and all these questions are coming up tonight. How many of these questions went to Mr. Knoll before this meeting? Go ahead, Mr. Ertz.
Thank you. A couple of things. One is, I'm hearing a lot of things up here, and I understand everybody has concerns. Personally, if me and my wife could agree on wallpaper, it's a miracle. To have 11 people up here talk about whether the wall should be white or the ceiling should be brown or the color of the carpet, I don't care how many committees you have, you're just going to have a committee of the entire aldermen, and then you have a quorum, and I think that would be basically a problem. Personally, Mr. Knoll, I absolutely trust you to do what's right. You've heard a lot of comments about the brown wood up there, and you know what? If you can save it, save it. I think that's a great idea. Save some money by doing that. But I trust you to do it, and this is a amount not to exceed. And if you can talk to your lighting people and make that work, that's wonderful, and still give us a quality image. Save the money you can. Just because we're asking for this amount of money, you of all people have brought many projects in under cost, and I believe this is another opportunity for that. I think, granted, a lot of these other things like carpet could be done later at a much reduced price than what was listed here, and we talked about that as we talked several times about this. No, I want to go forward tonight to give you, this approval. I completely respect Janet Emerson's, wood is kind of nice once in a while, and if it can be saved, you've kind of heard that direction up here from several aldermen. That would be great, but it's time to move forward so that we can, either do this or not. So I'm personally for let's.
Right. We could omit the drywall and painting of the wood, and we can leave it in its current state, and then if
some future date
we decide we still would, still want to include it, we can go back and do it at that point. That's the nice thing about this particular type of contract. We can add things, we can take it away.
We can get the DS improvements, we can get some safety improvements, we can get some ADA improvements, we can get some painting improvements, we can save some more money by not necessarily doing this with still tasing lighting. I'm all for that. So whatever I have to do up here to make that motion for this to move forward, that's what I'm making.
You've got the motion. You've made the motion. We have a second already.
Okay. So that's, and then you've heard our comments on this, and that you will try to save that.
Yeah, and it seems like that's something that several people would like to see stay. I understand it. The wood in person looks a lot better. The professionals they're talking to said that dark color does not help with the production, so they said you should probably paint it, and they're like, well, I would just cover it with drywall and go from there. So, but we can leave it as is, that's fine, and then we can go through it and just omit that from the cost.
I think you got that direction from us, and we don't have to change anything that way, so.
All right, a lot of discussion. We've got a motion and a second. I'm going to dispense with further discussion and call the vote.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Just a point of order, we are voting on tabling this and referring it to
No,
a
the table
committee.
motion never came forward. This is on.
Okay, so we're just voting
motion.
on the actual, okay.
Proceed.
In that case, it'd be no.
Alderman Lightfoot?
No.
Alderman Melson?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskert?
No.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
No.
Darn it, I didn't get to vote again. Motion passes 6-4 by my count. We move forward. Ask the clerk to call the reading on item, ask the clerk to read item number 3, please.
A resolution designating and authorizing an official to execute and file grant applications with the Environmental Protection Agency, United States of America, for a loan under the Federal Water Pollution Control Act as amended, in the Missouri Department of Natural Resources State Revolving Fund Program for loans under the Missouri Clean Water Law.
Mr. Knoll, anything you'd like to add on this subject, sir?
Yes, with the departure of Mr. Lawfree, we no longer have a person authorized to execute the transfers from the loan fund back to the city for the payments to the contractor. This is to clear that up so that we can get those reimbursements to the city so that it does not impact our cash balance items here at the city. So we can utilize as SRF funds for what they were intended for.
Motion to adopt.
Got a motion made and seconded by Mr. Kramer, original motion by Ms. Melson. We're into discussion. Mr. Van Buskirk?
I would appreciate it if those who wish to be recognized would push their button to be recognized when they're making a motion and a second.
You got to push your button before I can call on you. Ms. Amerson?
Yes. Who would be the person designated?
Tom Cole will be, as the interim finance director, he will be designated that way so that I presented, well, I'll do that because I'll still be here for the duration of the project, but that's not a good checks and balances, so that's why we needed an additional person who has some arm's length away from the project and can look at it just from the financial perspective. Does this document meet the requirements for the reimbursement request?
Thank you.
Anybody else want to push their button? No further discussion? We've got a motion and a second. Call a vote, please.
Alderman Melson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Okay, the next item before us is a public hearing to consider conditional use permit for property located at 8506 West Ridge. And at this time, I'll ask the clerk to perform the second reading on this, please.
An ordinance granting a conditional use permit subject to certain conditions to park and store business vehicles consisting of trucks, trailers, etc. on the parking lot surfaces, use buildings to perform mechanical work and maintenance of vehicles, store building material and supplies, rent the house/office building to a tenant, and rent one of the buildings for a similar use at 8506 Westridge Road in Raytown, Missouri.
This time, I'll reopen the public hearing and ask if anyone has any ex parte communication from the board that they wish to share with others. Mr. Mock?
Yes, I have, and it won't affect my decision.
Mr. Lightfoot?
I have had ex parte communications, but I will weigh all the facts that I hear tonight before I vote.
Mr. Ertz?
I went out and viewed the property, and will be listening to everything I hear to affect my decision.
Mr. Van Buskirk, I can't see your button, so I don't know if you pushed it or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did push my button. I also have had communication with some of the people that would be affected by this. I will weigh all the facts and the evidence before making a decision.
Mr. Green?
I have had
Mr.
communication.
Josh Green?
I have had communication with residents in the area, listening to their concerns on it. I will weigh all factors in my decision making.
Anyone else? Very good. Mr. Benson, are you ready to re-present the applications or add anything else we may have not have heard before?
Yes, I am. Just an update, following discussion at the last Board of Aldermen meeting regarding this application, city staff has discussed the stormwater drainage issue that was brought up at that meeting, as well as has visited the site, or revisited the site, and determined that the stormwater coming off of the subject property is following natural drainage patterns. In regards to the parking of large trucks such as semis that was discussed at the last meeting, which the applicant said they do not have or intend to park there or store there, staff recommends that a condition be added prohibiting the parking of vehicles over 20,000 pounds in size, which is consistent with city code regulating the maximum size of vehicles allowed to be parked in a residential area. And that condition or that recommended condition has been added to your ordinance that's before you tonight. Staff is also recommending that a condition limiting the hours at which vehicles being stored on the property can be brought or taken from the property, which would be in keeping with the residential character of the area, which has also been added as a recommended condition to the ordinance. Based upon these recommendations, staff has amended Section 2 of the ordinance that's before you. I'd like to add, since your packet was sent out to you, staff has visited further with the applicant about these recommended conditions. They do have indicated that there are times that someone may be at the property after the hours that trucks or vehicles, items stored can be brought to the property or taken from the property to do work on whatever's being stored there, that they may have stored there that may go past 9 p.m. at night, which is in the ordinance, or before 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning, which is also recommended in the ordinance. And they will talk to that point tonight, I believe, when they have it later during this public hearing. Also, in regards to one of the existing conditions that was in the ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission, related to the fencing of the back area, staff has been back to the property. That recommendation related to fencing, a 6-foot privacy fence around the rear area, or the areas where items would be stored. In visiting the site, there is an existing 6-foot fence around that area, with the exception of one area on the north side of the property behind the north storage building, if you will, and then a portion on the south property line where there's a heavy amount of vegetation, just kind of between the south storage building and the dome building there. There's a chain link fence there, but it's heavily vegetated and there's no privacy fence in that area. So that issue about constructing a fence is somewhat mute. That condition, if the opportunity would present itself, I would change the word from constructing a 6-foot privacy fence to maintaining a 6-foot privacy fence, because it's more maintaining what's already there. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, the applicant is here tonight as well.
Questions, Mr. Benson? Mr. Kramer?
I appreciate those recommendations. Those are kind of some concerns that I had. I have driven past this property a number of times, not since our last meeting, but and how many, and of course I view everything on my phone, but and trying to flip over, maybe you just know, how many things is it that they're going to fix, that they're going to bring up to code? I can't remember the exact number.
You'll have to bear with me. I don't remember the exact number myself. Looks like there's 20 items.
So there's 20 items that they're going to do to improve this. How many? 23, actually, according to Mr. Jason Green. But 23 items that they're going to do to improve this property to make it a far sight better. And I just, yeah, I do understand the concerns about somebody pulling in and out, but whether a truck pulls in and out of this property after 9 o'clock or somebody pulls into a driveway, there's really not a whole lot of difference there.
And just to clarify that point, the recommended condition from staff is not intended to limit the applicant or someone coming to or from the property. We just don't want to have vehicles being stored, brought to and from the property.
Sure.
They could come to the property to do work or whatever else they may need to do there if they're working on a vehicle or something else, but just limits it to keep, it's all intended to maintain the residential character of the neighborhood.
And you know, and of course I understand the concerns from the neighbors that have come out, but as many times as I've seen this eyesore, and somebody looks at taking that property and improving that property, 23 different things that they're looking at improving upon that property to make it something that's better to look at. And you know, we're not going to come up with any perfect answers or perfect limitations or anything like that. But what I can say is it will be a stark improvement to that property, so it will have my support.
Any other questions, Mr. Benson, before I go to the applicant? Would the applicant like to make a presentation to the board at this time? Greetings and thanks for your patience.
Hey, Mayor. Also, Alderman, thank you for hearing us again for the second time. As, I guess, a recap maybe of what we spoke about last time, I kind of want to reiterate a couple of points I think they're important. Number one, you know, we have a verbal agreement with the city to purchase this property with agreed upon price terms and some other conditions. One of those large conditions that were brought up by the Alderman was the 23 items that we've agreed to bring up to code that, to my understanding, has been, frankly, below code standards for quite some time. And that's a huge undertaking for us. If you look at those 23 items and an expense to do that, in addition to that, that's really not even indicated in the 23 items that are code violations, is we're going to spend a lot of money improving the octagon house structure for a residential building. That one undertaking is going to be extremely expensive, in addition to the code violations that we're going to bring up to snuff that frankly probably should have been brought up before. So we want to kind of reiterate that, as was stated, we're going to take this thing and we're going to make it something that it hasn't been for years, and an improvement in the city. The other fact is, this is really an overflow facility for some existing businesses like we've talked about before. I understand the neighbors' concerns about possible traffic and noise and those types of things, but our total goal is to conform, as I mentioned before, as a good neighbor, conform 100% to any nuisance laws and things like that that are in place currently in the city, and not increase traffic flow to that area whatsoever, again, as a light overflow facility. I will be honest with you, I mean, these conditions that we've agreed upon, we have agreed upon, but additional conditions making it more difficult for us to operate as the overflow facility that we've intended to will make this difficult for us to be able to proceed with. We do want to proceed. We have an interest in it. We believe that the city has an interest in dumping this thing off of your books, frankly, but we still have limitations to what we think we can handle. We absolutely are fine with moving fencing on that front side back and improving that to a 6-foot privacy fence that we had mentioned that we would, and that's that western border of the property. Certainly the other points that are mentioned here, you know, we're 100% on board with that. And I think when we finish with what we have planned, you guys will all, and the neighbors also will agree, it's a significant improvement, you know, from what is there. In terms of the conditions of the vehicles, you know, I think it's difficult to be able to put any real restriction that, you know, one vehicle couldn't come and go from the property beyond, you know, the hours that were stated by Mr. Benson. I know there's emergencies that happen, different things like that, and we sure don't want to be put under a microscope. I wouldn't think for a neighbor to say, wow, you know, there was one time that a vehicle, you know, was 5 minutes past the time because of an emergency in business or something, then all of a sudden, you know, we're in violation. I think that would really be an unreasonable request. I kind of look at it like neighbors in the area that you have an HVAC contractor, for example, that might work for, you know, an HVAC company or an electrical company that owns a truck and parks it in the street next to his house or in his driveway. Emergencies happen with those guys all the time, and I doubt that they're a constraint to be able to only come and go at certain hours. I think if they conform to nuisance laws that the city has, and they have to, which is what our intent would be, I don't think that there's ever been a problem, you know, with that in the histories of cities, and probably, again, here in Raytown as well. And again, I'm not trying to say that we're not going to or don't want to conform to certain rules and regulations, but we've got limitations. We just don't want to be under a microscope to where if there is a hour or two or three that some vehicle moves in and out and it's not written to the letter, that all of a sudden we're under violation. So I just would like for you guys to kind of consider the fact that, we're going to operate an overflow facility, extremely light business, very light use. It is not really going to be an operational business per se, but I think that the constraints on hours and so forth is something that would be difficult for us to be interested in. So that's a couple comments.
Mr. Benson, if I could ask then, so the added stipulations, this gentleman is not accepting those, or has this not been discussed?
I believe he's just referring to, and I'll not to put words in Mr. Foster's mouth, but I believe he's just referring to recommended, it would be condition C in section 2 of the ordinance that states, except for vehicles driven by persons residing on the property, no vehicles or other items shall be brought or taken from the property between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and not between 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. on Saturday or Sunday.
Mr. Foster, is that correct? Is that the only objection you have to the stipulation staff is recommending?
I think the only other thing would be the gross vehicle weight at a maximum, I think, Mr. Benson, at 20,000 pounds. I think a couple of our existing vehicles, and they're not big trucks, certainly nothing like an 18-wheeler. I think the gross vehicle weight is something near 24,000 pounds. So I think there might be some thought process there to look at the fine line of what that actual number might be, because vehicles kind of change over time.
We just based that 20,000 on that's existing city code for parking of the maximum size of trucks allowed in a residential district to be parked. And we just based it on that, is where that 20,000 pounds came from.
I think, if I may comment on that, I think that one of the reasons for the privacy fence along the western part of the property, as was brought forth in the council meeting actually that we were at, and the other Aldermen meeting with the residents, was that our privacy fence was to take care of vehicles that would be a little bit above residential size and kind of buffer them from the street. So I kind of feel like we've got a parking lot scenario that's different than a residential a home dwelling, and so I would expect that there might be some exceptions to that general rule, and at least it would make sense to us. Because again, I think we're getting back to, we're not bringing in, 18-wheelers, we don't own them.
So you do not have an objection to item D, the 20,000, or you do?
I would say yes, we do.
All right, so
I think I would like to talk about looking at what that specific is and look at amending that to a larger size, because again, some of our vehicles are a larger size but still conform to the constraints that the 6-foot privacy fence would hide.
Okay. And you're also objecting to item C then, that of the time for
Yes.
vehicles? All right. Okay. Any questions for the gentleman at this time? Anything else you'd like to add? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Green. Mr. Jason Green.
Thank you. I think the mayor already alluded to this, but, and I guess that's one a little bit additional clarification. You obviously mentioned this just a second ago, how, I guess you don't possess any 18-wheelers or things like that, but you said you do have some trucks that are around 24,000 pounds or somewhere. I mean, I don't want to get too detailed on that. Could you just maybe describe these type of trucks just briefly to me in terms of their actual size? I know sometimes these things can be somewhat compact because they're service vehicles and things such as that.
Can I bring something up to you?
Yeah, I can pass it around though, I guess. That's fine. So, thank you.
Describe some of the vehicles here. You'll see a van, probably a box truck that would probably meet that 24,000 square foot size on that van.
Okay.
The only difficulty here is that the audience can't see that, and the rest of us can't see that. So
I can pass this around, but I know the audience can't. But it's really just some service vans is what this looks like to me. And then there in the back here you have a storage utility truck right here, and maybe we can make some copies or something like that. That'd be great. Or something, I don't know if people want to see that, but I'm going to go and pass this around if folks don't mind.
Yeah, and then we're going to want a copy of we need a copy to give to the clerk for a matter of record, too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys can have that copy.
Mr. Mock?
Yeah, by the way, what was your name again?
Foster, Kevin Foster.
Okay, Kevin. You mentioned other improvements to the property. Could you name some of them by any chance, or?
Well, I mentioned improving the Octagon House. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, how about the parking lot, the pavement, the approach out in front? I know I heard repair, but I didn't know if, there's quite a bit of washout coming down that hill, okay, onto Westridge. Okay, I was just wondering what you would do to improve that. I know it's not part of the violation or anything like
Sure.
that, but, or was that into the violation, John?
The area you're talking about it's listed as one of the areas that is a violation, a current violation that needs to be corrected.
Okay.
As far as the pavement itself.
In the pavement itself, will all vehicles stay onto the pavement?
Yes.
Okay, even behind the fence, anything like
You know, pavement, I'm talking about hard surface, meaning there's gravel in some of those areas and that sort of thing. So whatever the existing parking lot area is, we'll stay within those confines.
Okay.
And of course, in the buildings.
What about lighting?
You know, we have no intention of making any lighting changes with the exception of when we make the improvement for the residence structure, having ample lighting that it would have just for a regular residence. And then, of course, lighting that we would have for the buildings themselves, internal speaking.
Yeah, it's been awful dark back there the last few years, so.
And we may realize that we have some of our own needs for lighting, for security and things of that nature. So that's just not something we really put a lot of emphasis on yet.
Okay, just don't want to see the other properties get flooded out.
Yeah, sure. We're not planning on making an auditorium out of it out there.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Kramer?
I am kind of in agreement with the applicant that to restrict them and split hairs about what time service trucks can come and go. I mean, he sounds very reasonable about what he's doing, and I would assume that there's, based on the size of them, that there's delivery trucks. When somebody would order furniture and have it delivered in that neighborhood, it would be a truck of a similar size. And to limit the scope of what he's able to have when somebody else can bring a vehicle in and make a delivery to a residential household. I mean, like he said, it's not 18-wheelers, it's box trucks, utility trucks, and so, I mean, just part of doing business, we understand that in service-related items, our public works building closes at a certain time, but in the event of an emergency, there has to be access to that building in order to take care of a problem. And whether it's the government's business or a private entity's business, there are certain situations, and gosh, I'd hate to have Wilson from Tool Time snapping pictures of somebody's truck going in and out at 9:02. So I'm with the applicant there. And if we don't do anything with this property, then we got the eyesore that we still have. I mean, it's an eyesore.
Mayor, if I
Mr.
could just
Benson.
clarify a point.
Thank you.
The recommended condition as far as the truck size is not for trucks that come to or from the property. They could have a semi come and drive. I talked to Mr. Bamesberger on the phone earlier today, and one of his concerns that he stated was, what if they have a semi that comes to the property, drops off some equipment or trucks, and then leaves? I said, that's fine. That's not the intent. That's the regulation, or that condition does not prohibit that from occurring. Just as you said, a larger truck making a delivery, it's the parking and storing of large trucks on that property is what we're getting at. And I'm just basing this up based on the discussion at your last meeting. So if you feel differently than that, that's fine. We can take those conditions out. So.
Okay. Mr. Mock, you still got your indicator that you're wanting to speak?
I'm indicated.
All right.
Okay. I'm back with the trucks here. These trucks right now are parked in a back parking lot, correct? At Star Drywall?
In that picture, they are, yes.
Okay.
That was just kind of an example of a truck that may be stored on
Yeah.
that property.
So these trucks will be behind the privacy fence, not out in front of the privacy fence, anything like that, until they go out onto the street. I see. And basically what we're into right now, we're real close to a residential neighborhood there on West Ridge. I see no problem with them. Okay? That's it.
Mr. Frazier?
My only question is, okay, the trucks you passed around, these would be stored overnight?
Yes.
And just for the audience to view, I would estimate that box truck you have would be approximately the size of the truck like Mr. Kramer say, a U-Haul, a moving truck, or one that
yeah, I think that's
refrigerators might be, delivered from, let's say, Nebraska Furniture. That's the size.
I think it's a good
and
example.
That privacy fence is a 6-foot fence?
Yes.
Because I'm questioning whether a 6-foot fence matches the size of the truck. I mean, I'm not sure how much it would hide a truck that big overnight. So that's the question I would ask, the people that live there when they have a chance to speak, what their feeling about that is.
You won't have a fence that will hide any truck that size. It'll all be based on how far away from the fence the truck is, so you get that line of sight. But the truck itself is, just from the picture, looks like it's 15 to 20 feet tall, so, but it just...
Otherwise, it wouldn't make a difference to have, let's say, an 8-foot fence? That wouldn't make any difference?
City regulations, the maximum height for a fence in city regulations is 6 feet.
It's 6 foot.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, very good. I'm going to ask you to stand down for a minute. I'm going to ask the public to come forward, unless you got anything else you want to add before you do that.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, before he leaves, can I?
Gosh, I wish I'd seen your button lit there. So. Sure, go ahead, absolutely.
I just pushed it, thank you.
I wish you guys hurry up and improve this place so you can solve that button problem too, by the way.
I appreciate that garage door getting painted.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Was it the right color? Good.
Looks great.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience would like to come forward at this time to, in the category of public comment. If any of the audience members, I need your name and address, please. Ask that all comments, questions be given to the board, please, and not to the audience. Thank you.
My name's Mary Potts, and I live at 11917 East 85th Street in Raytown. Okay, well, my question, since Mr. Foster has addressed some of my issues, and I appreciate that, I was on the issue of the hours. I guess for the residents, at some point, if it's totally open-ended, I'm not so much worried that that privilege would be abused, but for safety concerns, when we hear a noise, we kind of like to know if it's a noise that belongs there and in our neighborhood. So if there's no regulation on that, that makes it a little bit hard as a resident there. If I am to understand correctly, I went to the planning and zoning meeting on June 5th, and Mr. Foster indicated that he was willing to put a privacy fence behind the domed home and take down the chain link that's on West Ridge. And I was wondering if that was making that clear, because, that is really unsightly. The issue of storing building materials outside was never addressed at that original Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And I was wondering if there would be a height limit as to how high any of those materials would be stacked. And also, I had concerns if they're going to be storing building materials outside, what measures would be taken to prevent any extra weeds from growing up or water from pooling on or around those materials, so that we wouldn't have any problems with extra rodents or insects. I will say, I know the Star Drywall, they also own a rental property on West Ridge currently. And, you know, for the most part, that rental property has been maintained. I appreciate that they fixed the garage door, but right now they're not monitoring. I'm assuming it's not legal to have a car up on blocks in the front of the front yard. And that's an issue, for instance, that one of their tenants right now, the wheels are off of it. And originally, you know, the impact for the roads and the traffic, because there weren't going to be any tractor trailers, we don't get a whole lot of semis going through our neighborhood. I can kind of buy the argument of a furniture truck, you know. But there's a whole difference between having Nebraska Furniture deliver your furniture and having a bunch of them stored right behind your house. And so having those delivered by semi-truck, all these building materials, you know, that is a lot of extra noise and it is a lot of traffic on our street. And then finally, it was my understanding when I went to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that it's not illegal to have an 8-foot fence, it just requires extra engineering. And an 8-foot fence would hide more of that. I know it would be a lot more of an expense, you know, and I really don't want to put extra expense on the proposed property owner, but I also don't want the city of Raytown to basically put their problem on the fact that we need an owner to pick up for all these things that aren't being taken care of. And if the use and the impact on my neighborhood and my property values, you know, is affected, and my quality of life and those I live around, I don't feel like my neighborhood should have to take one for the team for the city of Raytown so the city of Raytown can get rid of that property. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to address the alderman on this particular matter? Okay. I will dispense with the public comments at this time. Mr. Foster, would you come back up, please, sir? A couple things I'd like for you to respond to that if I took notes on this, Ms. Potts, I'd like to hear more about the fence on West Ridge going from perhaps chain link to wood fence or privacy fence. I'd like to hear about the height of stacked materials, weed control, possible control of water ponding, and I want to hear more about the 8-foot fence from John Benson as a possibility.
Sure, great. First of all, yes, our intention from day one and still is to remove that West Ridge fence, which is a horrible eyesore, and install a privacy fence across that western border of the property behind that home. So that was the plan, it is the plan.
Okay.
In terms of the building materials, I think one of the residents' questions were, you know, how high can you stack building materials and so forth. You know, these are plastic drain tiles that are used in construction and materials that are designed to be sort of stored outdoors for periods of times while we're, you know, using them and so forth. I don't know what that height would be, but the ones that we're used to using are stacked in the 3 to 4 foot range or 5 maybe, certainly nowhere upwards and above that 6-foot fence. You know, we move materials quite a bit, so in terms of weeds and growth and rodents and water, you know, ponding and pooling underneath that stuff, if we stored a lot of stuff, then we're not making much money. And again, this is an overflow, so this is not our primary storage place anyway. This is just simply if we don't have room on our normal, you know, place. So certainly we want to, you know, take consumables and use them, or we're not making any money with that. So that would be an answer to that and what our intent would be. One of the other comments, at least, I don't know, Mayor, if you brought that up, was about property values. I really want to kind of echo the fact that we talked before about how we believe the improvements are going to far improve that corridor in terms of the look, and it, in my opinion, has to improve the value of the area just simply from the overall appearance and usability of the property. And if you had one more, I might have missed that.
Well, I did, but I'm going to direct it to Mr. Benson regarding the possibility for there to be an 8-foot fence.
That was discussed at the Planning Commission, as she mentioned. The Planning Commission had discussed it, however, they do not have the authority to require or allow a fence higher than 6 feet that the zoning ordinance allows. Only the Board of Zoning Adjustment would have that authority. And she's also correct that if a fence goes above 6 feet in height from a building code standpoint or construction code standpoint, it requires engineering for the footings because the wind load becomes such that it, the footings have to be engineered.
Okay.
Well, I might comment on that fence, if I may, Mayor. You know, one thing to consider if you're at that site where the existing fence is on Westridge Road is down at road level, where this fence will be moved back towards the west. The elevation is increasing, and it's a pretty good little incline right there. So that fence really, from the roadside, if it's a 6-foot fence, is going to be 8, 9, 10 foot above roadside. So I think that's going to add a lot additional buffer as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to Mr. Benson. Anything else you'd like to add at this time, sir?
I have nothing further.
Okay, then we'll go to board discussion. Obviously, this is the second reading, so we'll entertain a motion to approve, or a motion taking action on this in a second as well. But let's go to discussion. Mr. Mock.
Yeah, I'd like to have Mr. Foster come back up, please.
Mr. Foster, could you rejoin us at the podium, please? My apologies, but you are getting some exercise tonight. So. I didn't say that.
You don't need it. She had mentioned something about semis, okay, for delivery only. They won't be parked overnight. And just to double check on this, about how often do you expect semis to pull in and out of there? I mean, it's
To be truthful,
you said overflow, you know.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't think of an instance that we would even need a semi to deliver anything there, to be honest with you, but it's possible it could happen because some semis do deliver some products to the businesses. But to that particular facility, I would believe it to be very infrequent, if at all.
Okay. And there's something about the house will be rented out.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a resident in the house. So, you know, just in case somebody's coming in and out all night long, whatever, you know, but at least somebody will be over there to at least overseeing the property, you know.
Yeah, a little more security.
Okay, all right. And I can't, tonight, I don't know why I'm going to say this, but yeah, the first time I saw the car up on blocks tonight, too, you drive by, I just decided to look at the other property.
That's a whole separate matter, but I'm sure Codes has picked that up tonight.
So, but, yeah, I'm going out the garage door, so, but thanks a lot.
Okay, sure, Mr. Mock.
Okay.
Very good. Well, hopefully that's going to be the last question. Never know. Nope, there isn't. We've got more coming, so take your pick.
Nope.
Mr. Kramer's next, and I'll go
No
back to Ms.
question.
Emerson.
I'll just make a motion to approve.
All right, we got a motion to approve.
Second.
We got a second made, and I recognize you without hitting your buttons. But I do that. I'm going to continue to do that, so I'm not going to change that. Motion's made and seconded. Hang on, because I know I got a question coming. Ms. Emerson.
Yeah. What do you think the frequency would be of vehicles coming after 9 or before 7?
I would say, again, it'd be very infrequent. I don't know if I could put a number on it. If I was probably guessing, I would say a couple times a week, a vehicle or two would be a guess.
But not in the middle of the night, correct?
What's the middle of the night?
11 to...
You know, I don't know when emergencies pop up, but I would not expect the middle of the night.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to have clarity on the motion. Does this motion include the new staff recommendations regarding keeping a time frame and then also the gross vehicle weight?
It would not.
Okay. Then clarify, the original motion maker please clarify what the motion is?
The motion is to approve what has come before us, minus the hours and minus the gross vehicle weight.
So minus items C and D, I believe that is. All right, does the second still accept that modification?
Yes.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to then exclude items C and D from the stipulations offered by staff, conditions of approval. Okay, we good with that? All right, still in discussion, Mr. Van Buskirk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You betcha.
And I know those are hard to see. I've been sitting there, and I know it's difficult.
You're still my friend, and we will be.
I have personally went to the property on a couple of occasions now, just did again a few days ago, and Mr. Knoll was gracious enough to come out and take his time to open it up and go through it again. I think all of these improvements are needed. It would be an improvement to the neighborhood there and an improvement to that property. And I believe that all in all, it would be an asset to our city to do this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of the gentleman? We'll continue with board discussion. We got a motion and a second. I'll close the public hearing then, and no further discussion. I'm going to ask for a vote. Ask clerk to call the vote, please.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Nelson?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Ask the clerk to perform the second reading on item number 5, please.
An ordinance authorizing and approving an intergovernmental agreement with the United States Department of Interior for the installation of official National Historical Trail signs for the Santa Fe, Oregon, and California National Historic Trails, and amending the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget in an amount not to exceed $1,440.
Mr. Knoll is our Director of Public Works. Anything to add, sir?
No, I have nothing else to add since our last meeting.
Motion to accept.
Ms. Nelson's got the motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Kramer. Discussion before we vote on item number 5. No apparent discussion. I ask the clerk to call the vote, please.
Alderman Nelson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Next item before us is a public hearing to consider text amendments to the city code relating to the comprehensive zoning ordinance. This time I'll ask the clerk to perform the first reading on item 6.
An ordinance amending Section 50-107 Land Use Table contained in Chapter 50 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Raytown for the purpose of allowing craft brewery as a use within the City of Raytown, Missouri.
Mr. Benson, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Yes.
Hold on one second, please. I'm sorry. I'm going to, at this time, open the public hearing. I'm going to ask if anyone on the board has any ex parte communication they'd like to share at this time.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I've had communication with the applicant, and it will not influence my decision one way or the other. I can be neutral.
Mr. Josh Green?
I have talked with the applicant in the past, and I've talked with other residents, and it will not weigh upon my decision.
Mr. Jason Green?
I've also had conversation in the past with the applicant, and I will weigh all options.
Mr. Van Buskirk?
I also have had communication with the applicant. I will listen to all evidence and information before making a decision.
Any other true confessions? Mr. Mock?
Yes, I've also had communication, and it would not affect my decision.
Mr. Ertz?
I guess I have a question, but yes, I have talked to an applicant who would like to open a craft brewery in this city, but I believe this is really opening it up for any craft brewer, not anybody in particular. So I will.
You have confessed your.
I just, it didn't matter who I talk to. I will listen to and evaluate this as what's best for the city of Raytown.
All right, very good. Now, Mr. Benson, would you like to introduce the application, please?
Yes, we, the city, are the applicant on this application, as Mr. Ertz alluded to. This is a text amendment to our current zoning regulations, and it's based on a few meetings city staff has recently had with a business owner who is interested in opening a craft brewery in Raytown, as well as an accessory tap room as part of that. The exact definition of a craft brewery varies upon our research and in talking to the interested business owner. But based on our research, what we have found is that a craft beer is made by a brewery with an annual production of 6 million barrels of beer or less. Anything above that takes it into another category of outside the term craft brewer. In looking at our regulations and meeting with this prospective business owner, part of our review and discussion of the proposed use includes determining if a craft brewery is an allowed use, in this case in an industrial district, which is where his property is located. Staff has reviewed the industrial district regulations as well as other zoning district permitted uses, and found that a brewery of any size or nature is not currently addressed in our zoning ordinance, and therefore is not a permitted use anywhere in the city. Upon further review of our industrial as well as our highway corridor commercial district, and in context to our understanding and what we've learned about a craft brewery to be as far as an intensity of use, the number of trucks, number of vehicles generated, the nature of the business itself. We found that there are other uses that are currently a permitted use in the industrial district as well as in the highway corridor commercial district that are much more intensive than this proposed type of use. Therefore, staff is proposing that the zoning ordinance be amended to allow craft brewery as a permitted use in the industrial district and the highway corridor district, and as a conditional use in the neighborhood commercial district. Also, we are recommending that the zoning ordinance be amended to, as a standard for craft brewery, that it be limited to no more than 6 million barrels of beer production annually. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Benson? Mr. Ertz?
No, I think there was just something in the paper today about the rise of craft breweries throughout the nation, going from 50 to 12 or 1,300, and it's a popular thing going on right now. And any business that would, obviously this will employ people. This will be a tax-paying entity, and I see no reason, especially like you said, in the areas of the city that this would be produced at. It already has trucks and whatever down there. I've talked to Shamrock Cabinets and some people down there. I've not heard any complaints about this so far. So I think it might be a good purpose and put us on the map a little bit. Thank you.
Mr. Lightfoot?
I agree with Alderman Ertz. I think this may be a good thing for the city, and it sounds like a good idea. I just hope that the applicants would be okay with being limited to 500,000 barrels a month in production. But if that's all right with them, then it seems like something I could support.
Ms. Melson?
I have a question, since this isn't about a certain place or area. However, it does reference the industrial part of the city. and that industrial part of the city is backed up to residential. So with this type of business in a industrial next to a residential thing, are there safety concerns that need to be addressed?
Pardon me. Those safety concerns are actually addressed through the city's adopted construction codes. And the business, prospective business in this case, has already been in conversations with our building official and as well as the fire district about those types of issues that you're referring to.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Green, Mr. Josh Green.
I would just like to state my agreement with Alderman Lightfoot and Ertz in saying that I would love to see a business of this type in this community. I think it would do wonderful things. And in response to Mr. Lightfoot's comment, considering that Boulevard, who's one of the largest breweries in the nation, makes 600,000 barrels a year, I think that's a problem we hopefully, I'd hope to see that problem come up very soon.
That'd be a great problem to have here, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay, if there's no further questions of Mr. Benson at this time, I'd like to go ahead and get into the applicant and their presentation. Would the applicant like to make a presentation to the board at this time?
Wait a minute. This is a code thing. We're not doing his. We're not doing his thing. It's only a change of.
Hi.
Hold on one second, sir. Okay. Hold on one second. I may be.
Just to clarify, Mr. Mayor, I believe the city is the applicant in this case about a proposed zoning code. This may be an interested party if the zoning code does pass.
Well, then what I'll do is I'll ask you to, we're going to enter into public comment section at this time. And sir, would you like to lead off the public comment section?
Okay, I'd be happy to. First of all, I appreciate being here in front of all of you. I've owned a business here in Raytown for the past 20 years, over 20 years now. We manufacture classroom furniture and store fixtures, which are shipped all over the country. In the building that we currently own, which we've owned for now over 20 years on Railroad Street, half the building I have been leasing out to another company that's looking for a Kansas City Closet company, and they've been looking to find a place that would be more appropriate for a showroom, and it's on the half of the building that we currently lease out where we'll be building the brewery. For the past number of years, I've been a home brewer. If there's any interest, my name is Michael Crane, and you can Google me, and I've won now about 80 medals in brewing in the past 2 years across the country. And it's the focus of our brewery is based on the medals that I have won. And the focus of these beers are Belgian farmhouse ales, wild fermented beers, and sour beers. We actually will be harvesting yeast from the Raytown area, which will ferment some of these beers, actually, which we look for regional and local distribution at first, and then there's another distributor that would put us in 20 states around the country. If there's any other questions as far as what the focus of our brewery will be, we've got a team of professionals we've put together. The name of the brewery is Crane Brewing Company. We have a professional brewer who currently works for Boulevard and is a graduate of the American Brewers Guild. We have an engineer who's a graduate of KU, actually. Sorry, I hope there's any other Missouri fans, but our attorney actually is part of our business and owns a tavern called the Black and Gold, so sort of both states are covered. But we also have a member of our team who's a biologist and a CPA who has actually practiced quite a bit in the Raytown area. I know he's a CPA for H&H Color Labs. We have a fantastic contractor we're working with, and we've put countless hours in putting a plan together. We have poured beer now at 4 festivals in the past 8 weeks, and it's been quite humbling because we've been really the talk of the community in craft beer. And one of the most exciting things has been the number of people from Raytown that have come up to us and said, we're so excited. We're really glad that you're going to do this in Raytown. And I've been really surprised at the number of, I hate to say beer nerds, but there's really quite a few of very knowledgeable craft beer consumers in Raytown. So it's really exciting for us. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Actually, since this isn't specific to a certain business.
Right. Okay.
I'll keep that off the table.
That's fine.
So. All right. Anything else you'd like to answer under public comments?
Not that I can think of. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else from the audience that would like to address the board as public comments? Once, twice, moving past the public comment section then. All right, back to staff. Anything else, John, you'd like to add?
I have nothing further.
I'll remind the board that this is the first reading on this, and we will need to continue it. If that's your desire, I would suggest to continue it to a date certain of July 15th. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. And Josh, you had the second? Okay. We got a motion made by Mr. Kramer to continue this public hearing to a date certain of July 15th. It's been seconded by Mr. Josh Green as well. Okay, any discussion on that motion? Mr. Green, Mr. Jason Green.
I would just like to comment briefly that I've never seen this board that attentive.
We're thirsty.
Thank you.
You're saying we're all bored, we're all beer nerds then is what I heard. We're all connoisseurs. Okay. Says a lot. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Azier?
I wanted to ask a question. Was the removal of the trash cans behind the dais part of the budget cut?
Yes. Yes. And that's off topic and you're out of line, sir. Point of order on that. Okay. Any further discussion on this item before we vote on the motion to continue to date certain of July 15th? Call the vote, please.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Melson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank everybody for their time and patience with us tonight. We got a lot of ground covered, though. Mr. Mock, would you like to offer a motion to adjourn, sir?
No. Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Well, I think that Mr. Van Buskirk has asked for the second on the motion to adjourn.
I would appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will second that.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye on adjournment. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.